What you're about to hear will leave you breathless. A humble Filipino singer steps onto the AGT stage, and with just one note, Cowell freezes. The judges can't believe their ears. The audience erupts, and by the end everyone realizes they've just witnessed something truly unbelievable. The stage is buzzing with the usual electricity of a live AG night. Bright lights, a restless crowd, cameras floating like curious eyes above every corner of the room. But something shifts the moment the next contestant walks out. He isn't flashy. No glittering outfit, no dramatic entrance, no entourage. Just a young Filipino man with a soft smile and a slightly trembling hand holding an old microphone-shaped necklace, the kind that looks worn from years of being held, touched, and cherished. The audience softens their chatter, sensing an unfamiliar stillness around him, almost as if the air itself leans closer to listen. He steps into the center of the stage, takes a slow breath, and looks out at the massive arena. The judges gaze back with varying degrees of curiosity. Howie with his playful grin, Heidi with warm interest, Sofía leaning forward as she always does before something touching, and Cowell, the most unreadable face of all, studying him with cautious expectation. Simon doesn't blink much when contestants walk in, but for a split second, his eyes narrow, not in annoyance, but in something like intuition, as if he feels something different about this young man. The contestant introduces himself, his voice soft but steady. He shares that he grew up in the Philippines, in a neighborhood where the walls were thin, the nights were loud, and dreams often stayed dreams because life didn't always leave room for them. But through all the noise, there was always music. Elvis Presley, played from a small crackling speaker by his grandfather every single night. He explains that his grandfather believed Elvis's voice had magic in it, magic that made people forget their problems for a moment. And every evening before bed, he would let the young boy sit beside him and sing along, guiding him, teaching him, telling him that his voice was God's little gift. A faint smile crosses his face as he remembers. You can see in his eyes that the memories are alive, vivid, glowing warm inside him. The audience listens quietly, even the usual whispers gone. There's something honest about him. No rehearsed sob story, no dramatic pauses. Just a young man who loved someone dearly and found his own voice through that love. When he mentions that his grandfather passed away 2 years ago, a soft awe spreads through the crowd. He fingers the necklace gently and explains it belonged to his grandfather, the man who taught him not only how to sing, but how to believe in something bigger than himself. He says that wearing it on stage tonight is his way of bringing him along, letting him hear this moment from wherever he is now. Heidi's expression shifts, emotional but warm. Sofía places her hand over her heart. Even Howie nods in quiet respect. Simon still hasn't taken his eyes off the contestant, not a single glance away. It's rare, almost unnerving. He's listening intently, processing every detail, as if waiting for the reveal of something deeper. The contestant then shares that he'll be singing an Elvis classic. At the mention of Elvis, the room reacts. The audience cheers lightly, excited, nostalgic. But there's also an undercurrent of skepticism. Elvis is sacred territory. Many try, nearly all fail. Simon's eyebrows lift subtly, a micro-expression that says, "All right, let's see what you've got. Not harsh, not cold, just honest." Elvis impressions, Elvis tributes, Elvis attempts. Judges have heard countless versions. It would take something extraordinary to stand out. But the contestant doesn't flinch. He's not performing to impress. He's performing to honor. There's a softness to his posture, a kind of gratitude just for standing on the stage. He takes one more breath, this one much deeper, as if he's filling his lungs with both courage and memory. The lighting tech senses the moment and transitions the stage into a gentle golden glow, reminiscent of vintage spotlighting, subtle, classic, fitting. The air thickens with anticipation. Up in the balcony, a camera pans across the crowd, capturing people leaning forward, sensing that something meaningful is about to happen. The contestant closes his eyes for half a second, and in that tiny moment, the entire room seems to pause with him, as if AGT itself is holding its breath. Simon notices everything, the slight tremble in the contestant's fingers, the steadiness in his feet, the calmness settling into his shoulders. It's the look of someone who isn't here for fame. He's here for connection, for tribute, for something that transcends the show. He opens his eyes again. They're brighter now, filled with something unspoken. love, longing, reverence. He looks toward the judges, then toward the audience, and then slightly up, almost as if acknowledging someone watching from somewhere beyond the lights. The music cue is ready. The band waits silently. The crowd sits on the edge of their seats. The judges lean in. And in this quiet space, right before the first note, right before the shock, right before the eruption, there is a feeling so powerful that even Simon looks momentarily disarmed. A feeling that says, something unforgettable is about to happen. The contestant adjusts the microphone stand with slow, deliberate hands, the kind of motion that betrays the weight of the moment more than any trembling voice could. The golden spotlight sharpens, casting a warm glow around him that makes the rest of the massive AGT stage fade into a dark blur. All that exists now is him, the judges' table, and the thousands of eyes waiting to see if a quiet Filipino singer can truly take on the voice of a legend. The music begins, soft at first, the gentle opening chords of an Elvis classic drifting like a familiar breeze across the arena. The audience recognizes it instantly, and a murmur ripples through the crowd. People shift in their seats, ready for nostalgia but not necessarily expecting greatness. Elvis covers are everywhere. Elvis impressions, Elvis tributes, Elvis wannabes. Simon has heard thousands over the years, and most of them fall short long before the first chorus. But this contestant stands still, absolutely still, no exaggerated gestures, no forced charm, just an expression that looks like someone silently speaking to a memory. Then he inhales, and when he releases that first note, the entire world seems to stop. It's warm, it's rich, it's impossibly close to the velvety timbre of a young Elvis Presley, but with something more, something raw, heartfelt, real. It doesn't sound like an imitation, it sounds like a soul remembering another soul. The reaction is immediate. Simon Cowell's eyebrows shoot upward, then freeze halfway. His mouth parts, but he doesn't say anything. He doesn't even breathe for a second. It's as if he's caught between disbelief and awe, trying to process what just hit him. A woman in the second row lets out a sharp gasp and covers her mouth. Sofía turns to Heidi with wide eyes, whispering, "Oh my God." Howie leans forward so far he almost bumps the microphone. The contestant continues singing, his voice gliding effortlessly through each phrase. There's no strain, no hesitation, just pure honesty. He isn't performing, he's channeling the music through every memory of singing beside his grandfather on warm, humid nights back in the Philippines. Simon slowly sits back, eyes narrowing, not out of doubt, but out of deep focus. He leans in again, studying the contestant like he's watching something that shouldn't be possible. His hand rises and rests against his chin, fingers tapping once, twice, the way he does only when something genuinely extraordinary is happening. The next line of the song leaves the contestant's lips with even more strength, and the room shakes with stunned silence. The vibrato is perfect. The phrasing is elegant. The tone is warm but commanding. There's so much soul in it that the audience doesn't know whether to cheer or hold their breath. Halfway through the first verse, someone in the back whispers, "He sounds like Elvis." Another voice responds, "No, he feels like Elvis." The contestant opens his eyes briefly, scanning the audience without losing focus. He sees faces lit up by the lights, judges frozen in various states of shock, and for a moment, his lips curl into a soft, humble smile, almost like he's grateful the magic is happening exactly when he needs it to. Heidi brings a hand to her chest, overcome with emotion. She's no stranger to tearful moments, but this one hits differently. It's not just beautiful singing, it's storytelling, it's legacy. It's a voice carrying someone else's dream. The contestant reaches the first emotional peak of the song, his voice swelling like a tide rising with purpose. The power behind the note is breathtaking, not loud for the sake of loud, but powerful in a way that makes you feel it in your bones. Simon finally reacts. He sits upright, fast. He presses his hands against the table. His face is filled with disbelief and recognition, a rare mixture that only appears when he knows something iconic is happening. He doesn't break eye contact with the contestant once. The audience begins to stir, soft gasps, whispers, tiny exclamations that ripple like sparks. Some stand slightly from their seats without realizing it, drawn in by the gravitational pull of the voice echoing through the arena. The contestant's confidence grows with each measure. His posture strengthens, his connection deepens, and his voice becomes even more textured, rich with emotion. He holds the microphone gently but securely, like it's the last link to his grandfather's memory. As the chorus approaches, the band swells behind him. People brace themselves without meaning to, and when he hits the soaring line with breathtaking clarity, the audience erupts, not loudly, not chaotically, but in a unified gasp of awe. Simon's reaction finally breaks through the tension. He shakes his head, shakes it like someone trying to clear disbelief from their mind. Then he laughs under his breath, the kind of stunned laugh he gives only a few times a season, when something is beyond exceptional. He turns to Howie briefly, eyes wide as if asking, "Are you hearing what I'm hearing?" Howie just nods, speechless. The contestant feels the shift. He closes his eyes for a heartbeat, then opens them again with a glimmer of emotion. The way he holds himself now is different, less nervous, more liberated. This isn't just a performance. It's a conversation with someone who isn't physically there anymore. It's a thank you, a promise, a tribute. As he approaches the final note of the verse, he softens his tone, letting it float into the air like a whispered memory. The sudden gentleness catches everyone off guard. A hush washes over the theater, warm and reverent. Simon leans back again, stunned all over. His chest rises suddenly, like he finally remembered to breathe. And as the music transitions into the next part of the song, one thing becomes crystal clear to everyone in the room. This isn't just an audition. It's a once-in-a-lifetime moment. The moment the song swells into its final stretch, the energy in the AGT theater changes completely. What began as quiet awe has transformed into something electric, something alive. The audience feels it, the judges feel it, and the contestant himself feels it radiating back toward him like a tidal wave of emotion. His voice has carried everyone through nostalgia, warmth, shock, and reverence. Now, as he reaches the last part of the performance, he stands on the precipice of delivering something unforgettable. The lights subtly brighten, bathing him in a golden halo. The band pushes gently behind him, raising the emotional intensity without overwhelming his voice. And the contestant, this humble Filipino singer who walked in shyly clutching his grandfather's necklace, now looks like someone who belongs on the world's biggest stage. No fear, no hesitation, only heart. He steps slightly away from the microphone stand and holds the mic in one hand, freeing the other, to guide the music with small natural gestures. His voice soars higher, richer, deeper. It's not just technical excellence, it's soul pouring through every note. He sings like the memories of his childhood are woven into the lyrics, like every word is a promise he made long ago. The audience reacts in waves. Some cheer, unable to contain themselves. Others clasp their hands over their mouths. People sway. People cry. The sense of unity in the room feels almost spiritual. Thousands of strangers connected by one voice that refuses to let their hearts stay untouched. By the time he reaches the emotional high point of the song, Simon Cowell is already standing half out of his seat. He doesn't even realize it at first. His eyes are fixed on the stage, wide with admiration. He looks like someone witnessing a miracle unfold, someone who came expecting another routine audition and instead found the kind of talent that comes once in a decade. Sofía, overwhelmed, wipes a tear before it can fall. Heidi has given up on composure entirely. She has a hand pressed firmly over her heart, eyes glistening, smiling through the emotion. Howie leans back in his chair, shaking his head slowly in disbelief, repeating to himself, This is unreal." The contestant closes his eyes as he approaches the final note. The whole room leans in, waiting, hoping, almost praying. Every second stretches, heavy with anticipation. Then he releases the note. It's powerful, pure, flawless. A note that doesn't just fill the room, it fills the entire space inside every person watching. It rings out with strength but ends with a soft, controlled fade, like a whisper carried away by the wind. And then, silence. Not because the audience is unsure, not because they're unimpressed, but because they are stunned, frozen in a collective moment of disbelief. It lasts less than 2 seconds, but it feels eternal. Then the theater detonates. The audience leaps to their feet as if propelled by the force of the performance itself. The cheering is explosive, deafening, echoing through the arena like a tidal wave breaking against the walls. People scream, whistle, stamp their feet. Some wave small flags. Others record wildly on their phones, desperate to capture the magic they just witnessed. The energy is overwhelming, almost too big for the building to contain. Teach. Contestant opens his eyes, startled by the intensity of the reaction. His breath catches. He steps back slightly, overwhelmed, chest rising and falling with emotion. He brings a hand to his face, trying, failing, to hold back tears. Simon Cowell finally rises all the way to his feet, slowly, purposefully. A standing ovation from Simon is rare, a sincere one. This slow rise, this genuine expression, is nearly mythical. He looks at the contestant the way a master critic looks at a masterpiece he never expected to see. He nods once, then twice, deep, controlled nods full of respect. He lifts a hand to quiet the audience, not out of impatience, but because he wants to speak while the moment is still glowing. This, Simon begins softly, still shaking his head in awe, is one of those performances that reminds me why this show exists. The crowd roars even louder. He continues, leaning in, voice filled with sincerity. I don't say this lightly, Elvis would be proud. What you just did was unbelievable. The contestant covers his mouth, tears spilling freely now. He laughs through the emotion, unable to contain the joy, the shock, the relief. The necklace around his neck glimmers in the stage lights, as if sharing the spotlight with him. Heidi leans toward her microphone. You touched all of us, she says, her voice trembling slightly. You didn't just sing, you transported us. That's a gift. Sofía adds, your voice, it felt like it carried love. Pure love. Your grandfather would be so proud. Howie chimes in, America is going to fall in love with you. This wasn't just great, this was iconic. The audience roars again, chanting his name, clapping rhythmically, celebrating him not just as a singer, but as a story, as a moment that will live far beyond this stage. The contestant looks upward through watery eyes, touching the necklace gently, whispering something the sea. Amaris can't quite catch. A thank you. A promise. A message sent into unseen places. As the lights dim and the judges prepare to vote, one truth becomes undeniable. This wasn't just an audition. It was a moment that transcended music, a moment that will be replayed, remembered, and cherished by millions. And for a brief shining time, the Filipino boy who once sang with his grandfather in a small, humble home became the heart of the AGT stage.